even at 30,000 bears, let's just say, if you hit the quota, which our quota is 1,700, the population's still going to grow. I mean, even if you hit it every year. Um, so, and now we're at the point where I don't even know if, and without raising the quota, we're not even going to make a dent. We're not even going to scratch the surface of controlling that population. And, with California has such a bad rap with, I mean, pretty much everything, but, and I don't agree with a lot of the criticism California gets. I've lived in other states. And to be honest, when I lived there, it was no different than living here, really. I mean, people just, you can't believe, well, I live in Northern California. It is a little bit different than, Central or Southern California, but so I can't speak for them. But up where I'm at, it was just like living where I lived in Idaho, you know? So, yeah, we can't use dogs for bears. I disagree with that. It's one of the best tools to manage bears. It's probably the most effective way to hunt bears besides probably baiting. Um, I don't think we'll ever get baiting here. I do think that we could get dogs back, but it's a long process. It'll have to go through legislation. But when they release the report that we have that many bears, it's like, okay, this is our chance as hunters to maybe go after some things as far as bear hunting that we want and that we really need, um, not just for ourselves because we want it, but for the health of the bear population. Once they're overpopulated, guess what? Disease, starvation. Now they're coming into towns. Um, the human conflict is at an all-time high in that report. So there's many reasons why we should have dogs, in my opinion, even though I've never experienced. I'm kind of seeking out somebody that I can go with, and I don't even care to. I just want to go experience. I don't need to hunt. I just want to go. I probably need to be in a little bit better shape to keep up with the dog. You know, when we had dogs, from the old timers I talked to, we weren't having a lot of bears in these mountain communities, coming into town. And there's a town not too far from me that gets hammered every year with the bears coming in pretty much right now. It's happening right now.
Yep.
And into cabins, and one of the people up there sent me a video of a big old like 400-pound bear on their porch, and there's people kind of let their dogs cruise around up there, and there's a dog about 30 yards behind that bear and just barking and barking, and that bear doesn't care. Back before 2012, that bear probably either wouldn't have been there, or when that dog showed up, would have split. The bears nowadays, there's probably not a bear on the mountain right now that's ever been chased by a hound hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that, like, I don't know. I don't get why the anti community does what they do. So hopefully we get some moves in the right direction and get what's good for us and what's good for the bear hunter or the bear population. So and that's just the thing, is that the bear hunters in California, um, there's just not a ton of, like, through and through what I would call people that seek out bears. Most of them are opportunistic deer hunters.
Yep.
Out deer hunting, they come across a bear, and then most of them don't even shoot it anyways. They pass, but then they complain, "Oh, we got too many bears." And I get it. They're looking for, that special deer or whatever, and they'd rather get that. A lot of other people that I talk to, um, once they get one bear, they don't ever want to do it again, because it's about 10 times more work to
Yes.
to field dress a bear in the field. You're not going to drag it like you can drag a buck. You grab its antlers. They're just big old bowls of jelly. Um, you shouldn't even be by yourself. You really need a second pair of hands. And so a lot of people just won't, they just don't want to do it. So I don't get why. I have been in a few times where I'm like, why am I doing this where I'm at? Because
Yes.
most of the time we're not like right up on a road. My first bear was like 4 miles in, and it was like 90 plus degrees. And so that one was a special treat.
Did you pack it out?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
packed. I would packed everything out. Here in
Okay.
California, leave the meat, which I agree with. You should take it out. Um, yeah, we took the hide. In fact, I got that bear mounted right there. Not not that one. That
Hmm.
uh that was my first archery bear. He's not anything special. The one back there, down back in 2020, that's a Boone and Crockett bear. And then the one that's kind of out of picture here, he barely missed Boone and Crockett. So I have that one there. The first archery was a Pope and Young. Um, but I've gotten 3 Boone and Crockett bears. We got giant bears here, dude. And that's the
Mm.
that I feel like California is underrated for their hunting. I've hunted in quite a few different states. We have some of the most beautiful backcountry uh, that you're going to experience. And maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I hear that from a lot of people. We have pretty dang good weather, is most of the year. It can get warm and it does get cold, but not like we're not getting, at least where I'm hunting, we're not getting, feet and feet and feet of snow during the hunting season. So, and our bears are huge. And I think part of that is just we have so much food, so many different food sources for them, as far as acorns, we got these coffee berries they love. You got the manzanita tons of manzanita, and then obviously not very many deer left, but they're eating the fawns as well. So, and I just don't think they do a true hibernation in most of the state. So they're out longer. So they're not having to um, come out of a long hibernation, and then rebuild from there, if that makes any sense. So,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know,
ours are the same way. I don't think our season lasts until the first Saturday in January, and then most of the time your sows have laid down if they're going to have cubs. They've laid up, found a den, whatever. And a lot of times your juvenile boars that are traveling or trying to find their territory, they're out. And sometimes you'll find tracks in the snow up mid January into January. February's a little slow. March is hit or miss. By the end of March, they're usually back out and moving around. So I'm like you. I don't think here that it's not a true hibernation either for us.
yeah, here, I would say if I get a bear on some of my cameras late in the year, so we can hunt basically up until Christmas. Usually closes right around Christmas. Um, Personally, I don't even go out and hunt bears in December. It's that slow. I mean, usually my tag's filled before then, but I have had seasons where like I don't even bother going because bears hate crappy weather. They're just not out if it's so. Um, if I have a bear on camera late, it's usually a big boar.
Mm.
Uh, Not the sows, like you said. They're if they're pregnant and they're gonna have cubs, they den up. They have to basically hibernate. Uh, Young boar, I don't really see them here on camera. It's usually just a big old bear, and you're like, man, what is he doing up? But they got enough fat on them that it doesn't really matter if there's not much out. I do think they kind of do. They go into like that torpor where they may go lay down for a couple weeks at a time, get up, move around, maybe get a quick snack, and then
Mm.
head back. So, yeah, I mean, I rarely see a bear that's not one that I would shoot.
That's
Most
awesome.
most of them are and the small ones are obviously out there, but uh, without the hounds and us hitting that quota, there's I've looked at the previous seasons and like how many bears we were taking with hounds and how early the season would close. And there were some seasons that we closed early. Um, and then there were, not like super, super early, but early, like a month or so early. But most of the time, it ran up right up until the season. So we do need them back. It's just going to be a long road. My personal opinion, though, since I've never experienced dogs, I've never done it, and this might ruffle some feathers for people. Um, I think it needs its own season to give, at least here in California. And I know there's a lot of people that feel that way. If I'm putting as a bow hunter or even a rifle hunter, if I'm putting in a lot of work, foot miles, running cameras, doing whatever to pattern bears, season opens and I'm kind of sitting a spot and someone's dogs come running through, I think that creates conflict. And so now your hound hunters and just your average hunter are at odds with each other. And then they're not going to support each other either. To whereas, like, if you got the archery people, they're going to get a little bit earlier of a start. And then you got like your general season starts and they get, a few weeks, a month, or whatever. And then your hounds kick in maybe later in the year when the bear activity slows down. But the hounds are going to give you a little bit more of an edge as far as, locating the bear. I think that's how you're going to get the most support from hunters here in California. That's my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but from people that I talk to, they're like, yeah, I would totally get on board and support and help push. So
That season type of season. So let's go back to the quota because I'm kind of interested here. Um, what? So you're saying your quota is 17, 1800. Do
that,
you
that
ever meet that quota? And if so, and if you're saying you're up around 60,000, what is the, I don't know what y'all's game wardens, Department of Research, whatever, I don't know what they're called, but like, is there any plan to manage that population growth?
so the population, or not the population, the quota is 1,700. The department in the past has um, what's the word I'm looking for so early in the morning? They've recommended that we raise the quota. The commission shot that down. Um, and I think at that point we weren't hitting the quota anyways. So um, they need to raise it. What was your what was your question again? How
Well,
are they
the first one was, are you meeting that quota? And you're saying it's not met.
have not hit
Well,
the quota since 20 is either 2012 or 2013. So I think the last year we could hunt with hounds was 2012 and that went in. So the next year 2013, yeah, we've never hit the quota since.
so you met it with the hounds.
Every year pretty much.
Okay. So if your population is at that growth rate, and I don't, without looking at some statistics, do you know what that growth rate has been since 2012?
uh I do not know what the growth rate has, but let's just say it's basically been 12 years since we
Hmm.
had it, and the population has doubled.
Doubled. Okay. All right. So, well, that's a 50%
Yeah,
growth rate, right? Right.
and that
So,
and it could be higher than that. The estimate is between 60 or 65, whatever it was, and 81,000. So if
ooh,
it's top, it's growing faster. I mean, you got to just, I mean, it's like, it's not simple math, but let's just say we have 60,000 bears on the nose. Let's just say 10,000 of those are sows. And let's say they have cubs. And let's just say 50% of the cubs survive. Or let's just say 40 or 30%. It's going to grow
mhm,
big time every year. Now, we do have wolves now. Wolves supposedly will keep the bear population from growing as quick. So, not excited about the wolves, but uh, you know, yeah. The thing is with the new plan that they released it a year late. It was supposed to be last April. there is no real plan right now. They're in public comment period. They want to hear the public's input. And so there's going to be a lot of people that come out and say, "Hey, we want hounds, we want hounds." It's not the commission's choice. It's not the department's choice. I'm sure the department uh would love to see hounds back, to be honest. That's my opinion from people I've talked to, because it's going to it's going to help the population balance out.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that the department can recommend and the commission can approve would be a second bear tag, which is going to help a little bit. I still don't think we're going to hit the quota with that. We'd come closer, obviously, because there's going to be guys like me, and other people that really love hunting bears that are going to just make it happen. So that's going to help. But I think that's kind of like, it should be in a 5-year plan type thing. I was talking to a guy that wrote a petition a few years back, and we were kind of just brainstorming, and he was like, "Yeah, we need the 5-year plan." I was like, "I completely agree." So like, we start out with a second tag, then maybe it bumps into a year 2 or year 3 where we have a spring season, or maybe we get the spring season first, which would, if we had a spring season, in my opinion, you're taking some of the pressure off of the fawns. Maybe not as many fawns get killed because the bears have a little bit of pressure on them from hunters. You're taking some of those big boars off the landscape that are killing a lot of fawns.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then maybe it progresses into year 5. At that point, maybe the department says, "Hey, we recommend that we get the hounds back," and then somebody, you got to have a sponsorship basically to legislate it, for the dogs. But um, I definitely think they can approve the second tag or a spring season or both. Why
Mm.
not? And if we hit the quota, what's the quota for if we're not hitting it? Give
Right.
the We just want an opportunity to hit it. And there are going to be a lot of antis out there that go, "Well, you have the opportunity and you're not hitting it." And and that's kind of what they used. The Humane Society in their petition was, we weren't hitting the quota, so the bear population must be small. There's not as many bears out there. Um, and the department's report that they just released debunked that. So that's a good thing for us. So that the department can go back to that next time um, somebody writes a petition to take bear hunting away, which I honestly don't think they're going to do. Um, I think their next move, and I hate putting it out there for people to maybe hear and get ideas, but they're gonna their next move will be take bear hunting away through legislation like they did with the hounds.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happens, I mean,
What,
good luck.
and that's what kind of blows my mind. Like, okay, so you want to take, hunting away, the bear hunting. What is their thought process for managing the overgrowth? And just like in Virginia, you're seeing mange like horrible right now. And that's because, the bears are in close contact. The mites are getting on each other and it's just spreading all across the state. So you would rather your population die a horrible death than actually be hunted by a hunter who's going to harvest that animal and use its resources to provide for their family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think, I mean, they're most of those people will just say nature will balance itself, and maybe
Hmm.
that was the case before humans came along and populated areas.
Right.
And now it's kind of like, we're here, we're part of the landscape. We are the ultimate apex predator. We eat meat. So now that we're here, we kind of have to take responsibility for being here. But their argument is, "Oh, well, nature will figure its way out." Well, I don't think so, because you can already see the decline in the numbers in the from deer here. The mountain lion and the bear basically just double dip. The mountain lion kills it, buries it. The bear comes along, steals it. Now the cat's got to eat again, so they kill again. Another bear takes that. So it's just it's an evil cycle for the ungulate population. You know, they're just suffering. Um, it's going to be an interesting year. It's not going to happen overnight. It's we may not see any change till 2026, maybe 2025 if we can. Just depends on how fast the department wants to move. And I know they hate um, dealing with the public on the whole bear issue because it's the antis really get fired up. You know, they're pretty disrespectful. You know, in their comments they make. Some of the stuff they say, I just roll my eyes. I'm like, wow, you actually think you're going to get a commissioner, maybe on your side after what you just said? And the hunting community's been pretty respectful, um, you know, in the last handful of years that I've been really paying attention, and I've gone to a couple commission meetings, and I'm really proud of everybody that's getting involved and how they stay respectful.
Yes, and I mean we run into that here too. Is when you start name calling and shaming and doing this and doing that, you just shut the door on whatever you were trying to accomplish.
Oh, exactly. And then, people writing stuff on the internet, that's pretty much there forever. I don't care if
Hmm.
you not. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, kill them with kindness.
Yeah. So you had, and of course, I've started recording, so I'm going to have to go back and backfill some of this, Seth, because I didn't want to lose our conversation because it was good. Um, so you said that you had a meeting the other night, and that um, what kind of things? And I'm gonna edit this part. Like, what are some things that are going on within the state that are positives?
That are positives. Well, we still get to hunt.
That's a positive.
um, I think I mean, there's not a lot really changing as far as like um, negatives. We're not really losing much as far as our salmon. They canceled salmon season again this year. I'm pretty sure it's canceled. It was canceled last year. So, I mean, obviously, the management of our water here in California is really bad. Uh, we have record rains, which, fill these reservoirs up and then they let it out, anticipating more snowpack or whatever. And then the fish suffer. So, that would be a negative. But as far as the positive, right now, and for me and my main focus is that bear management plan. That's a huge step in the right direction because it favors us as hunters, and I actually think we're going to get something out of it, which will then impact, taking more deer off, or not more deer, but taking more bear off the landscape is going to help our deer herd everywhere that people are hunting bears, at least. So um, shoot, that's kind of a tough question because I really only pay much attention to the bear stuff, and then people start talking about something else. I'm like, you know,
Well,
uh,
so what about can you hunt a line um, in any other capacity, or are they just off limits? Period.
basically the only people that get to hunt lions are federal hunters. So, uh, yeah, we can't hunt cats. Uh,
Did you post? I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but I think it was Dan Gates posted that they were talking about the license. They were talking about the quota. I mean, 300 cats a year or something. Maybe it's 3,000. And then they said that once they shut that off, then the taxpayers, i.e., you, are now paying the government hunters to come in and meet that quota that people were actually paying for. Was that you that posted that?
I think I did post something about that, but I know that Dan Gates and Meat Eater, I think it was them talking that had like they posted
It was Steve Ranella. Yep.
so um I believe the last season that we hunted cats here in California, we killed under 100. It was like 70 something. Um, that's not that many cats.
Mm-mm.
The state, on average, from some of the federal trappers, or hunters or whatever you want to call them that I've talked to, I think it depends on year to year, but they say we average 100 or so. You know, that young man that lost his life to that cat here in Northern California that was shed hunting brought it shed a lot of light on, you know, the predator issues in California, especially with the cats. What a lot of people don't know is that shortly after, the department killed another cat in El Dorado County that was next to a school in the city limits. Um, that did not make the news, but that did happen. So, and from my understanding, they did not want it to make the news because it was so close to, you know, that kid losing his life. Um, so the cat issue is another thing that needs to be addressed here. I don't think it ever will. I don't think we ever will um, have a cat season unless somebody that is very important, you know, their child gets, you know, attacked or something. It's
Right.
going to something like that to where people are like, well, you know, maybe, but it's the same thing with, you know, the hounds. It's got to go to the people to vote. And, you know, when you got the Bay Area or, you know, Southern California, LA, basically like deciding what happens for the whole state, you know, you're not going to win because
Mhm.
just, you know, to put it frankly, they're idiots. Those people don't really get out and experience the backcountry. They think going to the mountains is like, you know, watching YouTube, you know,
Yeah.
and that's just not the reality of it. And personally, I don't want to see every cat, you know, killed. I want to just see them be responsibly managed. And you know, same thing with every animal. They all need a little bit of, you know, help. Now
Mhm.
you were turkey hunting this morning.
Yep.
Dude, we got so many turkeys. Like I drive for FedEx, that's my job. And where my route is, I probably see 200 turkeys a day.
Oh, wow.
I'll see like groups of 100 of them sometimes. I'm like, geez, you know, and it's pretty interesting. Some of them are huge, you know, like pounders at least. So I think we have a turkey problem, but nobody cares about that, you know. So and they're cool to see. Um, you know, and that's what people think is like, oh well, it'd be so cool to see a bear and or a mountain lion. It'd be cool to see a bear, but most of those people aren't going to get out in an area to see one. You know, they're going to Tahoe. They might see one climb out of a dumpster.
Mhm.
A real bear. I mean, it is a real bear, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's a
Right.
bear. They're used to people. Uh,
Mhm.
it's not a what I call a real bear. You know, and a cat. I don't want to see a cat. They're creepy. They just give me chills. And I usually see like, it seems like I see one every other year or something like that while I'm out hunting or scouting or whatever. And you know they've been watching you longer than you've been watching them, so it's always kind of an eerie sound or experience. And then if you hear them scream at night, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but
Mm-mm.
creepy.
No, I've heard some bobcats. We have bobcats, of course. I've never, but again, like it blows my mind that you're not managing that that species, the mountain lion. You're not managing it, and you're getting more and more. I mean, like the stuff that I see on social media, like you see an attack here or this happens here and this happens there, and yet it's like that doesn't matter. The human life is can be sacrificed so we don't hurt the animal, and
Yeah,
it just blows my mind.
you get the people that are like, well, you're in his home, and it's like, oh, dude, that's the dumbest kind of, you know, comment ever. That, oh, you shouldn't have been there, that's that lion's house. Or it's basically I've got online and you can pull up pretty sure you probably do it in any state, but I looked up verified um mountain lion attacks in California. There's actually quite a few. You know, not a lot of them are lethal, you know, deadly, but um there's actually quite probably a lot more than people think.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think that the cat population, I think it does regulate itself a little bit more because, um, Big Tom, they're very territorial of their area. And they're going to kill another cat if it's in its area, unless it's probably, a female. But um, bears aren't really like that. Bears are the only time that I think that they're really territorial is during the rut. They're going to push another boar off. Other than that, if there's plenty of food around, you'll see multiple boars in one drainage, eating. They
Yeah.
don't, not that big of a deal. They might push each other off of, a bush or off a hillside, but they're not going to actively like go kill that boar
Hmm.
because they're next to each other. Now, they're going to fight over the women when it's time. But, you know, it's not like a cat where they're going to actively kill each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, yeah, I don't get it. And I mean, the cats have got to be. I mean, you're sitting there saying that you're seeing hundreds of turkeys. I'm surprised that the cats aren't just wiping them out too.
Yeah. So another negative would be, and I can't remember exactly what year it was. They did put a pause on bobcat season here. It hasn't been taken away. A lot of people think we lost it. We still have a chance to get that back. They put a pause on it to do a population estimate. I think the perception of a lot of people is that people don't eat cat meat.
Mm.
Um, I've never had it. I've heard people say it's phenomenal. So, um, and back when they took that away, um, or not took it away, but put a pause on it, it was like right before social media. Social media's been around for a while, but it's right before kind of like it really seemed like social media grew. And social media is really a double-edged sword.
Hmm.
Um, the growth of social media has helped hunters be able to spread the word, at least to each other, what's going on. Hey, this is happening here, this is happening there. Whereas before social media, I would have no idea what's going on, possibly in another state or my own state. Like I was just saying, I didn't even know they were putting a pause on the bobcat season. I always bought a bobcat tag, whether I just in case I saw one type thing, or just basically as a donation to the state. They were like $4. They're not a lot, um, but yeah, I mean that we have a chance to get that back. I actually think we'll get that back. We
How
can't
long? And how long has it been shut down?
probably like the 2016 ish, right around.
Hmm.
Um, I'd have to look it up, but it was a year or two right before I got my first bear. So it was like right around there. I shot my first bear in 2018. So it's been a evil addiction to hunting bears since then. I tried for multiple years before that to get a bear and finally sealed the deal in 2018. So from then on, I've tagged one every year.
All right. So tell me what drove your addiction. What got you started? Like what was it that fueled you towards bear?
So I was hunting. Was on a hunting trip with my dad, um, and brother-in-law and like my nephew and stuff. And it was basically really just like my real first bear encounter. And it was where the encounter happened that kind of just intrigued my mind, where I was like, why is there a bear here? I would have never thought there would be bear there ever. Never saw a bear turd, never saw bear tracks, but at the same time, I was never really looking either. Um, it was a low elevation experience, and so and it was a sow with a couple cubs, um, and it just kind of got my brain just, why are these bear down here? And so I just kind of started doing research, and then it just kind of festered from there, where I'm like, well, there's usually a lot of bear up at this other spot that I would hunt with my grandpa and my dad when I was younger. We would always see a ton of bear crap, but we never saw one. We I don't even think we carried bear tags, and so I'm like, well, maybe I was a crappy deer hunter, so I'm like, well, maybe I could get a bear. And so back then, before like they banned lead, I would go and buy the bullets that were like silver or what, the bear loads and stuff like that. I don't know, just kind of it turned into an obsession, and it's just slowly grown from there to where like I like figuring out why they're in certain areas, and then how they travel through certain drainages or areas, um, what they're eating. It slowly I learned that they have their own trails that they will consistently use, and I call those, excuse me, they call those stomp trails, where they're walking down those trails and they will step in the exact same spot. Then there's the rub tree that they're rubbing on. I posted a video yesterday
Hmm.
bear that's rubbing on the tree. Um, and then they have the bite trees where it's like a young tree where they bite the top of it. And all of those things are ways that bears are communicating with other bears. So like those rub trees and the bite trees, it's like their own communication network. Another bear is going to come along, And the bite trees, I've always been told that the higher they bite shows dominance, like I'm bigger than you type thing. So um, they're just fascinating to me. They're smart. They're very, very, very smart.
Hmm.
So it's somewhat of a game. Like, can I outsmart these bears? Can I insert myself into their home and beat them? Because you got to beat their nose.
Yeah.
And not that I don't enjoy hunting deer. I do. Um, but every time I'm hunting deer, I usually end up trying to hunt bear, So yeah, it's kind of where it started, was just that first bear encounter that I had. And um, luckily I did not have a bear tag, because I would have shot that sow and not realized that her cubs were in a tree. So
Mm.
glad, because I was inexperienced. I just saw a big old bear up in a tree. I would have been like, oh. And I
Yeah.
remember yelling at my dad, get down here, man. There's this big old bear up in this tree. And she got down, ran off, went down the drainage, up the other side. And she's over there pacing back and forth, like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see movement up in the tree. And I'm like, there's two little butterballs up there. In fact, I think there was three. Uh, and it was cool because they were, they're super cute little fuzzballs. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where it began.
Yeah. And so how, and um, I know through a little research, you hunt in a couple different states. How many different states have you actually taken a bear?
So I've taken a bear in Montana, Idaho, California. I'm going to Oregon this fall. So I do have a goal that I've been trying to work on, and that's to take a bear in every Western state and then
Mm.
have it mounted. My wife doesn't know about the mount process. I've always thought it'd be cool. That'd be a cool goal. So I've been hunting Idaho the last couple years, doing the baiting with my buddy Matt, and that's been a great experience. Um, he's taught me a lot on how to bait. He's a smart guy. So uh, this year, our schedules kind of didn't meet up. So I'm gonna go to Oregon. It's close. I can be up there in like 4 or 5 hours and see if I can get one this fall. And then I want to get up to Washington because I don't know if you pay attention to what's going on over there.
Yes.
Major, major issues with their commission. And so I want to get up there and hunt. Um, I really, really want to hunt Arizona.
Mm.
Um, I like hunting those states that, like, not that Idaho or Montana is one of them, but Arizona would be one of those states you just don't think about bears.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I really want to get to those. I've made some friends just through social media that said they'd kind of help me and maybe point me in the right direction. And so Arizona's at the top. I feel like I need to go to Washington first because I might not get that chance, and I want to get there before they put the grizzly bears in there.
Yeah.
They're going to do, which is a horrible mistake. Uh, so yeah, I want to every Western state, basically from the Rockies over.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I've got family in Arizona. I've been there. I've not hunted in Arizona, but I have had some dogs that I have sent out to Arizona to be hunted. I've hunted in New Mexico. Of course, I've not hunted in Montana or Idaho, even though I've been there several times. But that's on my bucket list for sure.
Yeah, so Montana, they just recently um, got hound hunting for bear.
Mm-hmm.
So um, yeah, Arizona, they have some big bears, just like California.
Yeah.
And that and kind of backtrack on like my whole hunting, the bear thing and social media. I started my social media. It's really my sister's fault. Started running the cameras. And I started doing my thing, and she's like, "You should start a page." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not really into that." But like, I felt like California is so undervalued. Um, if you want to get a big bear, you come here. Not that other states don't have big bears, but on average, you're going to get a big bear here.
Now, when you're saying big bear, so because I know on the East Coast, we're looking at things different. And then I've got another question for you. When you say big bear, what is that definition for you?
Um, 300 plus
Okay. Okay.
is
Yes, that's a good
it
bear.
is a very very good bear. I think no matter where. Now I know that the East Coast they got some giant bears. I think
Yeah.
a little bit different class because of what those bears eat. Um, they got like the corn fed.
Beans. That's right.
So I mean, it's almost like they're a baited bear. But uh we can't bait here. So if
Right.
you see and you kill a 300, a 400 pound bear uh in the mountains, hopefully you're not alone because you're screwed if you are.
Yes.
It's that's a good bear.
Yeah.
Now, can't really I have a lot of people ask me that bear I took in 2020. Um he was huge. Like I couldn't even carry his head and his hide in my pack. It was so heavy.
Yeah.
Unpack it and cut a quarter of it off, just the hide. Now I probably could have gotten some more of the neck meat out, and lightened it up a little bit, but we were actually getting stalked by a cat in the
Ew.
dark, and so we were all like, "Let's get the hell out of here," you know.
Mhm.
Um, in the pictures, he looks like he's 500 pounds, but realistically, he's probably um, high threes, 400. I always tell people bears look bigger than they are. They definitely, um, once they die, they kind of deflate.
Yes.
And I've taken a couple bears. I took a bear in Montana that after I got over and looked at it, I'm like, "Ugh, that one was questionable," But here in California, the hair on a bear is uh is not that long. But
About
if
3 inches is what you're showing me.
yeah, if you go to Montana, Idaho,
Yeah.
they're 6, 8 inches long, so they look big,
Huge.
and then you kill them, and they.
Yeah.
Whereas here, if they look big, they're big.
Gotcha.
So they can kind of fool you. Let me see here. I gotta.
So while you're looking at that hide, it looks like all your color phases are brown. Do you have any black,
Um,
cinnamon, or blondes?
We definitely have. We have it all. Um, it's just different parts of the state seem to have more um, color phase. I think the further north you go, northwest, you'll see a lot more of the jet blacks.
Mm-hmm.
I probably on every year will get one, maybe two jet black in the area that I am. And that's kind of like my kryptonite. Everybody knows they're like, Seth can't find a jet black. And if they find one, they send me the video and rub it in my face. And I'm like,
Mm.
and so we do have jet black. Um, most of them are like that red cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
I see quite a few blondes. Um, the one I posted yesterday, he was kind of like a crazy orange, really pretty bear, like a blondish orange. I have one last year that I had on camera. It was a giant boar following the sow, and both of them were really, really blonde. So yeah, we have like the chocolate, and that's what everybody wants. It seems like everybody wants that chocolate or that cinnamon red, or just that color phase. Nobody's like me, and they want that jet black.
Yeah, and I mean that's all we have is the black. Now you'll get one. You'll get one every once in a while. It'll have the white V in his chest.
Yeah, the little chevron. We
Mm-hmm.
would say probably 50% of the bears I see all have a little bit of white.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a big white, I have some that have it all the way down. Some of them it's kind of spotty. Um, yeah. In fact, I've taken a lot of bears out of pretty much almost the same drainage, and they all have. You can almost tell they're related, like
Mm-hmm.
by their markings on their chest. Um, I did get a jet black in Idaho 2 years ago. Beautiful, beautiful bear. Um, yeah, there's just everybody wants what they can't have, I guess. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I,
We
I think the black ones. I don't know. Just when I think of a bear, I've always just as a kid, you think of a black bear, a jet black bear. That's just kind of, and I just think they're kind of. I don't know. It's my unicorn for here, and I know they're here. It's just a matter of finding that
I,
drainage bears living in, and then really just kind of scouting him and figuring out where he's going to and from and making it work, or at least giving it a go. If nothing's guaranteed.
so how much time do you spend a year in preparation, scouting, camera work, and hunting? How much time do you think you spend with it?
Wow, a lot. Uh, so basically, I start running my cameras. I start like a month ago, so that's just too early. It's really pointless. But I like to get them up in areas that I know that are proven. That way, I'm not really in there disturbing, you know, the activity when they first start kind of cruising through the. Not that I even really think that matters. Um, Mostly April is usually when I really start digging in. April, May
Mhm.
is really, and then I go all the way basically until the end of the year, to be honest. So fortunately, I've tagged out opening day the last 3 years in a row. Um, Last year, I hunted an area that I've never really actively hunted bear. In fact, it was the area I was talking about earlier. It's a spot that I've hunted with my dad, and my grandpa, pretty much my whole life, and we never took a bear in there, and I had been running cameras there for a long time. Um, and I actually went there. I was actually headed to a different spot last year. I was like an hour out of town, and I just changed my mind, and I'm like, I'm going up there. Something just told me I need to go up there, and went up there, checked some of the cameras, and I was like, it's questionable because I really will only go hunt a spot if I have a bear on my camera 3 or 4 days a week. Then I feel like I have a chance. If I and unless it's like a specific bear that I really want, and maybe he's only there once a week because they just do circles. These bears just do circles. They have their own routes, their routines, and whether they're doing it every day. I have sometimes a bear, and it changes throughout the year, but sometimes you'll see them every other day. Sometimes you'll see them every third day. Sometimes you'll see them every day. And so I'll insert myself into that area by playing the wind, and I wait. So I'm really not even a spot and stock. We'll do spot and stock with rifle, but with my bow, I guess I'm more of like an ambush
Mm.
hunter. I wait for that bear to show up. Um, and so last year um, was actually my first kill out of a tree stand because in that usually I hunt on the ground, but that spot kind of there wasn't really anywhere on the ground to be, so I'd put a tree stand in there. And man, that was the long. I don't know how these tree stand hunters do it, but that was a long day. I think I sat there 12 and a half hours
Shoo.
uh, and got that bear. I think it was like around 6 p.m. I think, but I got there right at first light, and my butt was killing me. My back was killing me. It's a mind game. It's a mental. It's a if you can't sit there and stay positive, you're not going to last. In fact, I was sitting there a lot of the day thinking, I don't know if I could do this again tomorrow. Um, it was funny because I was in reaching my nephew who was like a few miles away in another drainage, and we're texting back and forth, and I'm like, there's one's gonna come by in 20 minutes, I'm gonna smoke it. And that's exactly what happened. I'm like, oh, I just shot one. you know and that was kind of a goat rodeo because of what happened to me the year before. I don't know if you want to hear about it, but
Absolutely, no better time.
so last year, not last year, the year before, um I was hunting a spot, and I literally hike in. I camp like a mile away. I hike in there. I sit down in my spot. I'm on the ground at that spot. I put my bow down. I set my pack up. I take a picture of my bow on the ground, just whatever. I look up, and there's a bear. The bear that I've been watching on camera. I'm like, holy shit. But he's leaving. And I'm like, do I wait? Do I wait for him to come back like maybe tomorrow, a couple days, or maybe later today? Or do I make a play on him? And all of this is happening within, seconds. Your mind's just sitting there. And I'm like, I have perfect wind to chase him down quietly. And so that's what I did. I left my I grabbed my bow, and where it's kind of like this small drainage, and he's on one side, I'm on the other, and there's some vegetation between us, but we're probably 100 yards apart. And so I'm paralleling him. I'm kind of tailing him, and I know the route he's gonna take. Well, I get over there, and I know he hadn't come out the other side, and so I kind of sit down, and I can hear him in the bushes snapping and snorting and farting and doing all eating all these berries. And of course, he's in there for like 40 minutes, and I'm like, all right, well, if he comes out and continues the way he's going, he's going to pop out right on this trail. So I'm ranging all the rocks and trees that he's going to maybe pass by. And all of a sudden it got real quiet. Couldn't hear him moving anymore for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, that son of a bitch is taking a nap. And I'm gonna have to sit here, and it's gonna get hot. And that day it ended up being like 105.
Shoo.
So I'm like sitting in a spot behind this rock where there's no shade. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna wait as long as I can. Well, within like a few seconds, he pops out and he's going down that trail. And so I draw back, let one fly, and he kind of just stands there. And I'm like, did I miss? Because he looked confused. Starts to trot off, and I can see what looked like intestines hanging out. And I'm like, I shot low. I split him open. And so that's all I really had to go on. So I gave him like an hour and a half to kind of do his thing, hopefully lay down and die. So I started tracking him, and just because this story's so long, I'm going to shorten it up. I track him, and every time I've ever shot a bear, there's never good blood within the first 50 to 60 yards. Usually it's kind of very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
Once the blood starts pouring, once it gets off that hair, once the hair becomes soaked with blood, then it's like a deer. It's just pouring out.
Mm-hmm.
I found so much blood. I'm like, I'm gonna stumble upon him at any moment. But I'm in the bottom of a creek, you know. Anyways, I get to a spot. I'm going through the brush. I all of a sudden look up, and there he is in a defensive position. He's alive.
Mm.
Stands up. I'm in a tight spot with a bow. I don't have any I don't have an arrow knocked. It's kind of dangerous to walk with one knocked, especially when I'm going through like these little boulders in the creek. Anyways, he bluff charges me twice, and I just about crap my pants. And he kind of looks at me and like, dude, just leave me alone. You could tell he looked bad, and I felt bad at that point. I'm like, damn, I don't want this. I don't want him to suffer. And so he turns and literally just walks off like no big deal. And then I hear two death moans like within 30 seconds. So I'm like, he's dead. Well, I never found him. I ended up finding him 3 days later, but he was completely spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
So I tagged him. I felt like I took his life. That should be the end of my hunt, even though I'm going to get nothing from him. So I felt like that was the right thing to do. I did talk to a game warden, and he said, walk away. He goes, you did your due diligence to find him. Keep your tag. You did what you could. Me personally, I put a tag on him. Anyway, so next year, I shoot that bear, and I'm up in a tree, so it's downhill. As soon as I shot, I mean, I saw blood come out. I knew I hit him, but it felt like it was low. And so, same type of thing. I watched him run off. I watched him go into some brush, thrash a little bit. It's amazing what your mind tells your eyes it sees. Because
Mm-hmm.
I stand, my nephew ends up getting over to where I'm at, and I'm like, he was over here. He's over here. We found no blood for like 2 hours, and it's getting dark. And so eventually we find where he really ran to, and there's quite a bit of blood. Well, we start tracking him, and he's headed down into this nasty drainage. But I mean, it's blood out both sides. It's just pumping. We get to a spot where he went into the manzanita, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going in there after last year getting charged, and now it's dark, and so definitely not going to go in. Which really got to me because I was worried he would spoil, because in the archery season here it's warm. It's not
100 degrees is not warm. That's scalding hot.
well. And so where I was at the next year, I was at a way higher elevation. It wasn't that hot, but it was still warm enough to where a bear sitting overnight is not a good thing. Um, Anyways, my nephew's like, you see that oak tree 40 yards in there? He's going to be dead underneath that tree tomorrow. And I'm like, nah, he's going to go a lot further. Because the bear the year before went 900 yards, and we could tell where I hit him. I made a good shot. That bear just didn't want to die.
Mm.
And so we go back first thing in the morning. We're in there. We walk 40 yards into the bush under the oak tree, and there's that bear dead.
Mm.
And like, damn, I'm thinking I should have went in there. Um, and my shot right through the heart. Yeah, I have a picture online there. That broadhead right through his heart, and he went 240 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So these animals can do some crazy things. And I didn't. Some of the meat had spoiled, um, and so I think I got to keep about 3/4 of it. And then we took the hide out, which was this hide here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be any good. And I sent it off to my taxidermist, and it surprisingly lasted. It was cool in the evenings, but it wasn't like cold. So
Right.
it's going to be a questionable thing. But uh, yeah, dude, bear hunting with a bow is intense. You know,
Yeah. I've had some close encounters, more so than I would like, but I've got a pistol with me. So, that's a little different than having a bow and having to depend on that for sure.
Yeah, so they changed that here in California. You used to not be able to carry a sidearm when you're archery hunting, I guess, to prevent people from shooting it and then being like, "Well, I got it with my bow." Uh,
Mhm.
20 is it 21? 2021, I think that's when that law changed to where you could carry a sidearm. Excuse me, but only when you're hunting predators. So,
Mhm.
ear tag in your pocket. Let's say you're archery hunting deer, and you have a bear tag. You can't have the sidearm.
So you got to be strictly hunting a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Which I don't agree with that. I think uh, are there going to be some people that abuse it and maybe they shoot it with a pistol? Sure, I'm sure there are. There's always that bad guy, that screws it for everybody. But you know, uh, a mountain lion comes along. I mean, look at the young man shed hunting. You something to defend yourself, and a knife's not going to cut it. So I know when I posted a video online of me packing my bear out that year, and you could see the pistol on my hip. People are like, "Oh, that's against the law," and it's like it's new this year. You can do it. So
yeah.
uh,
And I don't think I'd be in cat country without one. Like I don't know, man. They're like you said. I've never been stalked by one. I've never been in a situation, but being in the woods, spending my life in the woods, I I can imagine what it is, and what it feels like, and that's just not no.
well, yeah. I mean, what's your life worth to you? A ticket or
Yeah,
yeah? I mean,
yeah.
people, I would do it anyways. Um, and that's their personal choice. But
Mhm.
there's not just uh, there's many reasons to carry a firearm. So not just mountain lions.
Right there. Yeah.
Can you guys bait?
Mm-mm. No, we pretty much we uh we call it. We'll just walk. Call it free casting. We'll just walk with the dogs with us, and they'll strike. During the early season, like August and September, when it's just running season only, we rig a lot. We put the dogs up on the truck and we'll ride the old mountain roads. But yeah, we can't bait.
And that's what I remember as a kid hunting when I was young. When we could use hounds here, is I remember seeing the guys with their Toyota trucks and their dogs up on the hood, and hearing the hounds off in the distance. And I always thought it was cool. I'm like, man, that looks like a lot of fun. And so, hopefully in the next couple years, I'll be able to experience that. I think it'd be fun to watch those dogs just work and thing. Those dogs love it, as you know. I mean, that's what they're bred to do. So yeah, I think it'd be neat.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to Canada. That's only 5 weeks away, actually. So we're going to Canada spring season. So we're gonna go up to Canada and hunt a week. That'll be in June, and then July. like I said, we can't do anything in July, and then our season comes in August, so we'll get after them then. But yeah, I you're right. I don't have a really desire to kill a bear. I like to watch them. Like they kind of mystify me. Like there's like you said, they're just that creature that's um I don't know, they're magnificent. Like they're that type of animal to me. And yes, I've killed several through my career because of getting in a pinch or getting in a situation. I killed one last year. My dogs bait him up in a hole, and the hole was on the side of a cliff. There was nowhere to go. Like there was nowhere to go. And I ended up getting down and I couldn't get one of my dogs out of the hole. I got everybody else tied up. And like I said, I'm by myself up on top of this cliff. Shouldn't have been, but I was. And my last dog,
Took you there.
I'm trying to get her out of the hole. And I'm on like a 4 foot ledge. Like there's a little ledge there where this hole goes in. And then you have to go up like 5 foot, 4 foot to get on top of the cliff. And then below me is just a 60 foot drop off. Like that's it. So I finally get her coming. I'm toning her, trying to get her to come out of that hole. And she's getting louder and louder and louder. And then I can hear him blowing and smacking the ground. And then I see her rear end, and I'm like, yeah. So I pull my pistol. I carry my pistol right here in my pack. I pull my pistol out. I grab her by the tail. I'm pulling her up out of this hole, and then he sticks his head like, and I'm standing on top of him. Like, there's nowhere to go. It's me, you, a dog. It's like, that's it. So I ended up putting 2 rounds in him. And it's been several years since I've taken one since then, but we eat it. Like,
Well, it's got to be the right bear.
yeah.
And that's one thing I respect about the houndsmen is they're not just going to shoot the first bear they see. I mean, I'm sure some of them do if it's like, man, that is a great bear, you know, gonna take it. But as soon as they take it, season's done. I guess. I mean, can you take somebody out with your hounds, or is there laws against you doing that?
No, no, we can take whoever. And they changed the law, and I don't know what year it is, but they changed the law in Virginia. It used to be if you tagged out, you're done. You're
Yeah,
done. And I'm feeding dogs for 12 months a year to hunt 30 days. It's not good. So they switched the law now where if I tag out, I can still go and run my dogs. I just can't take my weapon.
yeah,
Which I'm bad about too. My guys get on me all the time because probably 60% or 70% of the time I don't even carry a gun. Like I only carry a gun. Like I take my dogs and a big stick. That's what I use. Um, but yeah, I mean, and that bear was, coming up out of that hole, like he looked like a Volkswagen. Like I'm telling you, when he come up out of that hole and I'm standing on top of him, I'm like, holy cow! But he ended up being 300 pounds, and I was like, oh man,
that's
I was.
big bear.
It is. It definitely is, and I was
It's.
like, man, I wished I'd have let him go, but I didn't.
I think the sound that really is eerie is the jaws popping.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yep, they're not happy. you
yeah,
know.
yeah. And we hear that a lot too, especially when you get them treed and they're on the lower limbs. Like they'll turn around and they'll look at you and they'll start blowing and then it's pop 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 and then it's pop pop
Yeah.
pop pop pop. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Seth, I appreciate you being on. I'm glad that California, like that's a eternity away from me because it's plumb across the United States. But I hear a lot. I've got several friends out there. I've got people that surround your Northern California that we talk about hunting, and when I seen you make the post, I'm like, well, good, and we're like I said, we're running the same some of the same stuff here in Virginia too. With we really don't know what our population is. Um, I we the hunters have a good grasp on it. I think, according to the state. I don't know what they know, um, but our population was growing. But we've got two different areas too. We've got our national forest, and I don't know if that's what you're hunting, state land.
We have national forest. We have BLM, and then
Mm,
a logging company. They're the largest landowner in California. I think even in they Sierra Pacific Industry,
Mm.
and we can hunt their property, but it's all gated, so you got to hike in, which is fine.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
So our bear on the national forest on our state lands, like they're not it's a healthy population. I have definitely seen a decrease in the last 2 years. Um, and then you have the farmland where all the bear have come off of the state land and gained refuge because they're not getting pressured. You can't run dogs there. And there's a lot of food sources like what you talk about, and that population is flourishing.
yeah,
And so we have two different management areas. It's kind of got everybody in a they don't know what I don't think the state knows exactly how to handle it. Um, and 30 years of me, I've been hound hunting 30 years, and I say this all the time on my podcast. 30 years ago, if you caught 5 bear in a year, you had some really really good dogs. And in about 2006, 2007, our population started to grow. But back, we had a 10-year management plan. And in that 10-year management plan, we were allowed to bait during chase season only on private property. So you could, you could bait on private property, and the sows started having were healthy. The cubs were healthy because they had plenty of food. They were putting on plenty of fat for the winter and for birthing and everything. And then that stopped in 2003. And in six and sevens, when you really seen that boom with the population, and it's been healthy. It was healthy then, and then now it's kind of like I said. In the last 2 years, we've got a lot of new hunters, a lot more, um, a lot more people that didn't hunt 10, 15 years ago. That's kind of new into the scene, taking a lot of sow bear.
COVID brought in a lot of new hunters.
Yes, COVID. Yeah, I mean, hunters and fishing. Of course, that's a whole nother podcast because I could get into that, like just how the increase of people, people. But yeah, so I get what you're saying, and I'm glad, and hopefully y'all's management, y'all get some things that are beneficial to you guys. The spring season, and then
But
an extra tag.
we ever do get a hound season back, I think there are going to be a lot of people from out of state come here because it'd probably just be a ridiculous season. Now,
Mhm.
it might take a couple years um, for those bears to maybe get used to being chased, because maybe they at first they're just going to get bait up by the dogs because they're confused and realize, oh wait, this is a danger, to where they're going to run. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, if we ever get a hound season, it's going to be off the hook as far as the amount of people, I think.
Yeah, and we're seeing that too. We're seeing an influx of out of staters into our areas. Um, So, and I don't know what's brought that on really. Like, and most people like for you, you're a stalk. You spot and stalk and you hunt bear the traditional way. We most people in my area, very few hunt your way. We all hunt with hounds. It's kind of like a I don't want to say it's a tradition, but it's just kind of the way of life here.
Yeah,
If you got hounds, you're running bear or coons or whatever.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
but anyway.
gonna come to the East Coast somewhere because I need to get one of them 700 pounders. You know.
Well, so North Carolina, uh, that would be the place you want to go. It's going to be in the swamps, and they're not as they're not as many of them as people think. There are some good bear there. We killed one last year down on the coast. It was 626. That's been the biggest bear I've been on. Um, we've killed a couple 500s. 590 was one that we killed years ago down on the coast. So you get that 500 pound, you get in that 500 pound range. It's good. There's 600, 700s, and of course the state or the North Carolina or the world records, what 868. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's like a cow. I mean that's the size of a
There's
cow.
a tractor nearby.
Well, skidder, yeah, and yeah, and we use a capstan winch. when I go down. In fact, we bought one too for up here. But when I go down to the coast and hunt and stuff, we use a capstan winch. We hook it up, drag it out through the channels up to the one of the cutways or whatever. So, but well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your time and keeping us up to date. And guys, if you want to catch Seth, he's on Facebook, Instagram, Black Bear Pursuit. Take a look, take a follow. He posts a lot of good pictures, a lot of good content. So, Seth, what do you want to leave us with?
Happy hunting, man. Get it done. Fill a bear tag. Do the ungulate population a favor and put some meat in your freezer.
That's right.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.